Moving and getting divorced. Those are two of the hardest things that people go through in life. And imagine if you had to do them both at the same time. Even worse, imagine if you're getting divorced, then you have to sell your home, and then you have to buy a home. It's incredibly difficult to do these things. And the team and I, we've been in real estate for, combined over 20 something years. And over time, which I haven't really mentioned in the past, we've done a tremendous amount of divorce sales. I don't know, I lose track of the number, but maybe 40 or 50 divorce sales. And we found out that there's some things that you can do, some tips that would make the stress level go down tremendously. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that there's going to be no stress, because it is impossible to get divorced or to buy or sell a home and have zero stress. There will be stress. But the tips that I'm giving you will limit that stress as much as possible. And I wrote an article. I'm going to share my screen with you like I always do. And I wrote this article quite some time ago, and it was 5 divorce sale pro tips. And I'm not just going to read you the stuff. I'm going to go down to each one, and then I'm going to break it down a little bit more. Um, so the first one is getting 2 independent appraisals before putting your home on the market. So I'm going to stop sharing. So with divorce sales, they're very difficult, because they're at that time it's hard enough to sell a home with a spouse or loved one, boyfriend, girlfriend, family, if things are perfect. It's hard enough to do that. But when someone is getting divorced, the communication is probably not that great with that other person. And if during the sale of the home, a lot of times people are arguing just to argue, because unfortunately it becomes emotional and their egos involved, and people don't like to agree on things a lot of times when they are getting divorced, just in my experience doing this many years. And they don't like, as far as the price, a lot of times there is zero agreement with the price, because sometimes with divorces there's one partner that has left the house and is living somewhere else, and then there's the other partner that's living in the house. And when that happens, typically the person who's staying in the house is comfortable with the house. They may be happy in that house, and they're selling because it's unaffordable. Maybe some bad experiences. I don't know, just bad memories. But typically, it's not the memories in the home that are that the person is concerned about. It's more people are selling their homes during a divorce usually because affordability. So if someone is selling a house, there's one party that is not living in the house. Not always, sometimes they live together. But in most cases, again, from my experience, the one partner is outside the house and living somewhere else. And usually that place isn't that nice, because they're cutting costs. Instead of having potentially 2 incomes in the past, now there's only one, or there's just more expenses than there was in the past. So one person is living in the house, and typically, again, I'm not going to generalize, but I can just give you my past experiences. This isn't always the case, but a lot of times the person that is living in the house is less motivated to sell the house, because they know that probably, usually, that once they move, they're probably going to get something that is not as nice as what they are in now. So coming to an agreement with price is pretty difficult a lot of times. And so one party is going to usually say one number, other person's going to say much less or much more. And at, if you're doing a divorce sale, sometimes you can't get past that. So a pro tip on overcoming that is to get a third party's opinion on it. So it could be like a real estate agent recommending an appraiser, or you just Googling and doing your research and finding an appraisal, someone that does residential real estate appraisals, not commercial appraisals. So you'd get this third party person to get an appraisal. And if you once you get that appraisal, if the number seems way off to you or to one of you, do another one, do another appraisal. And of course, it's going to cost money to do this. If you are hiring a real estate agent to do the transaction for you, you're going to list your house with them. Maybe they would pay for the appraisal, maybe at least pay for one of the appraisals. I would recommend doing one, but find a reputable appraiser and doing one. Only do two if the number just seems crazy to you guys, to both of you. So get that appraisal on the property and it'll give you an idea of the fair value, and then you guys won't have to disagree over that. So the second part is, and I'm going to share this document with you when I'm done as well. Determine specific days when the home could be shown. So back to that scenario where you have one person living in the house and the other person not living in the house. So you want to make it crystal clear to potential buyers when that property can be shown. And so like if someone is living in the house and the other person isn't, obviously the person living in the house is going to get disturbed for all the showings, or they're going to have to leave the house. I would recommend, if you're selling your house, to leave the house when the buyers are coming, especially if you have an agent that is representing you. So you want to let that agent know up front that, okay, we can show the house on Monday and Thursday and from between 5 and 7, and on the weekends from 12 to 2 on Saturday. Whatever the schedule is, you want to know that schedule up front, because you don't want to get all these calls from your agent saying, hey, can we show the house at this time? Can we show it at this time? But more importantly than your agent calling you, you want the buyers, the motivated buyers that see your home, that are interested in your home, to have the expectations set where, okay, we like this home. The home can only be shown on this days. Okay, it's fine. If we don't say that and the agent, the buyer's agent calls and we say, no, we can't show it at that time, then that agent has to call their buyer again, and then they have to figure it out, and then they have to guess, and it's sort of a pain. And we want to be like Amazon. We want to make things with zero friction, as little friction as possible. The reason we buy so much on Amazon is we can click a couple buttons and we're done. We've bought our whatever the possession is, and it gets sent to us, whatever product or whatever it is. We click on a couple things and we have it. It's super easy, and that's why Amazon does really well. And our team and other agents that do well and have pride in what they do try and make things frictionless, as frictionless as possible. So if you could give that information up front and be fair about it, if you're the one staying at the house, and if you're not staying in the house, be fair too, that person, you can't expect that person to show the house whenever someone calls, unless you're going to get very, very few calls. If you're going to get very few calls, that's okay. You can show it, you can try and be flexible. But if it's in a price range where you're going to get like 10 or 15 showing requests a week, can't do that. You have to put them together. Okay. So going on to number 3. Number 3 is, do not take it personally if your agent speaks to one partner more than other. I didn't know this until I messed up. So a lot of these things that I'm sharing are things that we found out from experience. Because as an agent, typically when I started, most of the time you're dealing, even if it's a family or there are multiple people buying the property, whatever, you have the 2 partners, and if they are both buying the property, you tend to communicate with one more because one person is like the go-to person. But with divorce sales, I learned this. I need to be super specific about how I address people. If I'm going to email someone, I need to email, and I'm telling you this because most agents don't know this. I would say 99% of the agents don't know this and don't pay attention to this. If I know that, so like random couple, John and Mary, if I know John and Mary are getting divorced, some emails I'm going to address, it'll be like, Dear John and Mary, or some will be like, Hi, Mary and John, or however, good evening, John and Mary, good evening, Mary and John. I'm going to alternate the way I address people. Sometimes Mary will be first, sometimes John will be first, even when I text, because you'll be surprised when someone is getting divorced. A lot of times they don't feel like they're being treated fairly, and so they're going to look at a lot of things that they normally may not. And I've had clients in the beginning where they said, how come you text him first every time? Or how come you text her first every time? A lot of times it was just alphabetical order, or I just didn't know any better. So yeah, when you address the couple, make sure that you switch up addressing them if you're an agent. And if you're a seller, and you're a consumer, if someone does address the other person more than they address you, I can almost guarantee you it's not done on purpose. They are not purposely addressing one person more because they think that that person has more to do with the transaction than the other one. It's just a bad habit. Okay, so let's get to number 4. Number 4 is have a game plan on what to do once the house is sold. So when I say this, having a game plan, I've had situations, again, this is from experience. I've had situations where someone is going to move, they're selling their house, and they get the number they want, everything is good, and then they start worrying. They're really worried about the sale, and I'm like, so what's wrong? What's going on? And they'll be like, I'm worried because I have nowhere to go. And it may sound crazy, but sometimes people don't think about it. Sometimes people don't look for properties before they move. And when I say look, meaning looking like be very engaged in trying to find a property, knowing exactly how the market is. And like, I'll give you an example, like our rental market now. I'm not working with anyone doing a divorce right now, but if I was right now, if someone were to just look at the properties, what they were listed at for rentals, they rent for much higher than that in this market. Some markets they rent for much less. But like an example, we had a rental the other day. It was $4,200 a month. It rented for $5,000. We had a rental for $2,100 a month. It rented for $2,400. So our rental market is a lot hotter than it normally is. But regardless of the market, you need to know not what stuff is just listed at, but what stuff will it be sold at. And if you're buying after you sell, you want to know the same thing. You don't want to just look at we're in a really, really hot real estate market, the hottest market I've ever been in my 17 years of doing this. And with that said, most properties sell for over asking price. And most people have to put 10 or 15 offers on properties before their offer gets accepted. And I did a video on how to make the chances much better than that, where you don't have to wait 10 or 15 offers to get your offer accepted. You can do it much sooner with some of the tips I gave. But regardless, if you're going to be moving, whichever partner you are, wherever you're living, if you're going to move again, you want to know exactly how the market is for the properties that you're going to either buy or rent. And a way to find out, obviously, you can go and do the research online. You can Google it. You can go on all these real estate websites, real estate apps, or you can ask your agent. I would highly recommend that you ask your agent to do the research for you and show you real data, not just guess, but take time. If someone asks me to get the information, I know it's a big step in their lives. There are going to be multiple people that are affected by this move, the least I can do is spend a couple hours and do the research and really give them good data so they can make the best decision. And with that said, going a little deeper into this, not just knowing how the market is, knowing how your credit is. A lot of times when people go through divorces, their credit suffers a lot. And so you want to pull your credit. There's a free government website where you can pull your credit 3 times a year, I'm sorry. And it's called annualcreditreport.com, annualcreditreport.com. And if you go there, I'm going to double check that website to see if it's .gov or .com. Actually, I'll share my screen and I'll do that right now. I don't want to give you the wrong info. Let's share this. Let's open up another tab. Hopefully you can see that tab. Annual credit report. Let's see what it is. Annualcreditreport.com. Okay, so it is .com. So when you see the site, this is the government website. It says annualcreditreport.com, and you could pull your Equifax, you can pull your Experian, and you can pull your TransUnion. You could do one of these each time a year. So you could pull all of them at once. You can pull them every few months. So that's why it's you can do 3 of them a year. Okay, so back to the credit thing. If someone is renting a property, credit is important. If they're buying, credit is important. So make sure you know what you're getting into prior to doing it at the last minute. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you know what's going on with your chances of getting the next property. So let's go to number 5. Let me get rid of this annual credit report thing. Let me stop this. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Okay. So number 5 would be sellers shouldn't attend the closing at the same time in the same location. So again, from a bad experience, I had a couple and they were getting divorced, but it was very amicable. It was surprisingly amicable, where they were, everything was good. It seemed like they were good friends. But what happened is, and so when we were doing the closing, they were scheduled at the same place, at the attorney's office. They were both going to sign, but all of a sudden, it was sort of like closure for one of them, where this person just realized that home that they had all the memories in, is going to no longer be there. And then all the reasons why they got divorced came up, and it was a lot of anger, almost fighting, where we had to separate the people. And so it wasn't good. So I would highly recommend, if you're getting divorced and you're doing a divorce sale, make sure that you sign separately from your partner or soon-to-be ex-partner. Make sure, if you could, you sign on a different day. That would be better. You don't want to do it like one person does it at like 3:30 and the other person does it at 4, and then you happen to see them in the parking lot. Do it at way different times. I would recommend that. And so those are the tips that I have for you. Hopefully they help you. Like I said, I'm going to share the link to the article. And we are experts at doing divorce sales. We've done tons of them, and there's so many other things that we have to be aware of. And these were just 5 little tips. But yeah, if you're sadly getting divorced and you're selling your home, make sure that you work with someone that really knows what they're doing, because it could be a miserable experience for you in a situation that is super difficult anyways. And thanks so much for watching our videos. Like I always say, really, really appreciate you taking time out of your day. If you have friends, family members, coworkers that you think could benefit from seeing our videos, please do share our videos with them. and make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can get our videos as soon as they are released. Hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for watching. All the best. Love you guys.